So hello gardeners, welcome back. So we are in Vero Beach, Florida again, and we are going to do a front yard garden tour. Now this one's a little bit different, so I'm excited to share this one with you. This one here is more of a clean line kind of garden. My client was like, you know what, I want to appreciate the colors. I want to appreciate the stone, but I don't want to be working out in the garden, you know, more than maybe a few times a year. And so I was like, oh, I gotcha. So not my typical garden in the ways that I like to layer things, but I do think that it's a very crisp, very clean, and still has a nice pop of color. So I'll get Bryce to pop in the before picture. This was your typical builder's package here in Vero Beach. You know, we kept this one tree in place. I don't think we kept anything else in the garden, but we did keep the one tree, and then we kind of lost everything else and kind of removed it. But came in with good soil and kind of came in with a plan. So we wanted originally the end of his garden kind of stopped right here on the corner of the house. And so as you guys know from my previous videos, you know that I really like to draw the beds out as far out as we can get them. So they're kind of on the angle of the house. To me, that always makes the home look wider, really branching out, using your whole property line. The way I look at it, if you're taxed, use it. So this comes all the way out as far as we can go that the HOA allowed us to go. So I ended up incorporating a triple foxtail palm. I was only able to use one tree. We only had the room for one tree. So why not go with a biggie? So I used a beautiful triple foxtail palm to anchor this corner, and I think it does a nice job of kind of giving an ending canopy to the corner of the house. I love it. Did a backdrop of some nice red copper leaves. These are the Rojo red copper leaves, and they're really growing into just a gorgeous, dense, dark coloration amongst these variegated arbicolas. I mean, I just love the combination of reds with this yellow. Now, I know yellow arbicolas, they get a bad rap. They're used in builders packages everywhere. Heck, they're right next to us, but they're used often. That if you get a good quality variety of these, and you just kind of keep up with a little extra fertilization. Just because a plant doesn't need much doesn't mean that it really doesn't thrive with a little bit of extra love. So fertilizing this 3 times a year, like you do the rest of your tropicals, makes a huge difference. Just to make them a little bit more interesting, instead of just having a little combination or a little cluster here, we kind of have a grouping that kind of curves here, wraps around the back side of this dark coloration. Because anytime I use something dark, I pair it with something bright in the front. Then I go back with dark again. And that's what we have here. These 3 tiers alone are always going to complement each other. We're going to have the Louisiana red or Rojo red copper leaves, the variegated arbicola, and the Blue My Minds down at the base. It's going to do a gorgeous job of always giving you that bright spot where you need it. It's sandwiched in the middle of the 2 darks. You know, you've got a small spot in your garden or a small island in your garden. These 3 together, they're just a prime plant grouping. They're going to grow real well together. These are never going to overtake these. They're always going to show off each other. Just make sure that your bright tone is always in the middle. So you can sandwich it with 2 darker tones. But these 3 tiers, that's always going to be a ground cover. This is always going to be an intermediate plant, and this is always going to be the taller backdrop. You know, and then of course, out in the center is going to be your focal point tree. So whether this is an island in the middle of your yard and you wrap it this way, or if it's just like this and it's just the edge of the bed design, these 3 they're game changers. They're great companion plants together. So don't be afraid to pick them up. I mean, look how dark and contrasting. When your eye looks at these, you go from bright, dark, and I love that kind of that waxy leaf look to their color. I love that they're a whole different texture than these. I mean, just look at how these complement each other. So even if you can't, in some cases, just because of shade conditions or light conditions, I can't go light or dark. And if that happens in your particular landscape, then go ahead and mix textures. Mix a small leaf with a big leaf, even if they're both greens. And it makes such a difference. We've wrapped this around the centerpiece, which is the King Sago, and then it continues on here, and then we flanked it with another collection of Mammy Crotons. And this is all so easy to keep, nice and small and compact. I mean, being out in this garden is probably pretty minimal, so I think it does a nice job of allowing you to see the stone through it. We did border the edging here with some aluminum alloy edging, and that just kind of gives it a nice invisible edge line here, so, and holds that stone in. Right by the walkways, I usually like to flank whatever I do here I'll do a little cluster of it here. So as you're coming in, there's just symmetry. So I've got a little clustering of foxtail ferns, and then the same on this side here. And then these were original. These were dwarf ixoras. They were over there, and I just moved them as a backdrop to this pygmy date palm. So this was the original pygmy date palm, and it wasn't too bad for a builder's package pygmy date palm. You guys can see the difference. I mean, this is a pretty good sized tree, but look how small, even those are 4 trunks, look how small the trunks are. So that's kind of what I was meaning. Try to find a nice pygmy date palm when your builder or your landscaper is incorporating them into your garden, because it does make a huge difference. Sometimes people don't even realize it's the same tree, but it's just a better version versus a version that's kind of more of a lower grade. So this one's been fertilized, it's got new soil around it, it's gonna bounce back. So, and you know, you have a little bit of say when it comes to that for the most part. A lot of people do not realize that your builder will allow you to pick a lot of your plants and your trees. So they'll say, is there anything specific that you want to do? And if they don't say it, just mention it. You know, say, hey, do I have, can I have some say in where I'm going to spend my $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is that's part of your builder's package? Do I have any say in that? Because you know, that gives us, or your next phase of landscape, something to work with. So definitely do that. Also, do not be afraid, even if it costs more, to add in some premium soil into your garden, because that also makes a huge difference. Okay, so this is the other side of the driveway. As you can see, this is a very small yard. So this is what I would consider, this is a yard size that we technically do a lot of. So this, we anchored it with a big fat boy of a foxtail palm. I mean, it is... This is gorgeous. He's wider around than I am. Well, no, he's not. But, you know, he's a pretty good size. And I was thrilled when I saw him in the farm. He was just absolutely stunning. So when I do my designs, I don't know if you guys know this, or maybe I mentioned it in a previous video. When I do my designs, I actually tag all of these trees before I prepare my design. So I'll kind of have exactly what I have in mind, what I've talked to the homeowner or my client about. We'll go through pictures, and then I'll actually go into some of my farms and put blue tags on what I think is going to work. And then when I meet back with my client, I show them the design. If it moves forward, they set those tags for transport, and when we move forward into the installation process. That's the way I like to work as a designer, which is a really important thing to do, because a lot of time there's so much movement in these nurseries that you think that, oh gosh, there's a big source of these, and then when you go to do them 2 months later or a month later in the landscape process, they're not available. So, you know, it's a big part of that. So when I'm tagging trees, it's almost like I'm not necessarily like shopping for trees. I guess it's more like shopping for Christmas trees. You know, when you go there and you're twisting it and you're turning it and you're thinking if it's going to fit in the proper space in your house. Landscaping is the same exact way. So when you hire a landscape contractor or a designer, expect that they're doing that, because that is a big part of our job, is finding the right tree for the right place, for our landscape. So that was a long story to say this tree was my favorite tree to tag. I absolutely love just how chunky and heavy it was. I've even got pictures of it going in, or video of it going in, and it was just a big boy to try to get in with our machine because it was super, super heavy. But I think he found the perfect home. He's very happy. He's withstood the terrible storms that we've had recently, and he is a nice anchor point. And what I mean to say is we needed something with some girth here, because we only had room for one tree on this corner, and it couldn't be another triple. So that's the reason why I wanted such a chunky tree. Again, yeah, I guess this looks familiar to you guys, you know, so we have a very similar island as we do on the opposite side. We have the backdrop of the red copper leaves. That's going to be, of course, your big backdrop. We have the variegated arbicolas, and we have the blue my minds. But since we have the dwarf ixoras that were used from the original builder's package over there, I brought in a handful of dwarf ixoras on this side, just so we have a nice pairing on both sides of the driveways. Once you kind of have a palette, you just continue on with that palette and just kind of make sure that you keep your layers appropriate, low, middle, high. And these combinations, the reason why I stress on them is because they're so important when you're kind of arranging a landscape. They're the very first thing that I learned, after I learned about plants and trees, the very first thing that I learned about in my career was how to pair and what to pair with. That's why in Bryce and mine, our upcoming book, we stress not only the details about the plants and the trees, but we put in the combination plants, the perfect combination plants for each of these plants that we chose for the book. So that way you guys can like literally take it like a shopping list and say, oh, this is kind of my space, and these are going to work in my space. And then now you have a whole collection versus just picking one plant or one tree out throughout the book. So,
like a cheat code.
Yes, Bryce says, like a cheat code. So if this is a look that you guys like and you would like to see something kind of similar to it, but this one has a little bit of wildlife action, a little bit of butterfly attractant, and it's actually just a few doors down from this house, then check out that video. I will get Bryce to put it here. He's pointing this way. I'll get him to put it here for you guys to take a peek. And I thought that was a fun garden tour and incorporated a lot of great pollinators. So you guys, thank you so much for joining us. I will see you in the very next garden tour. Oh, that's what I forgot. Comment True Gardener, you guys. Thank you, True Gardeners. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.